And we are live.
Hello, everybody. The Brantford Local Housing Corporation Board of Directors meeting is called to order. The roll has been taken by the clerk. We do have quorum. Just a couple of points on the rules of procedure I'll read. I'd like to remind members of council, staff, and our viewing public of the electronic participation policy for hybrid meetings. For those staff and delegates joining electronically, please keep your video and microphones off until requested by the moderator or members of council. All rules for delegations under the city's procedural bylaw continue to apply. The full corporate policy number 50 regarding virtual participation in meetings is available online to review. In the event of connection service interruption, if one occurs that affects quorum of the committee, we may recess for up to 15 minutes to regain quorum. Quorum is not achieved, the meeting will be adjourned. Just a reminder as well that people within the council chambers are to have first priority when speaking. For today, I believe that's just Mayor Davis and myself as chair. If there are any declarations of conflicts of interest for any of the items appearing on the agenda today, please declare so now. Seeing none, I'll move to presentations and delegations, of which there are none for today's meeting. And for items for consideration, can I get a mover and a seconder to place all items for consideration and consent on the floor? Councillors Mayor Davis and Councillor Sless. First and seconded there. Are there any items the committee wishes to separate for discussion? Mayor Davis?
Yes, Mr. Chair, item 4.1, if that could be separated, I have an amendment I'd like to make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. 4.1. Are there any others? Councillor Vanderstelt.
Yeah, it's under consent item 5.2, please, Mr. Chair.
5.2. I'm just gonna write that down. Thank you. Are there any others? No? Well, then I will carry on the vote for all items not separated. All those in favor? I don't see any opposed, so that is carried. The committee will now consider the items that were separated for discussion purposes, starting with item 4.1. Mayor Davis, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have an amendment. It's pretty straightforward, and I'm looking for a seconder once I've said what it is. So my resolution would be that item 4.1 be amended to add a clause I, reading as follows, that the city clerk be directed to forward a copy of the final resolution and staff report to the County of Brant. That was omitted from this.
Seconded by Councillor Vanderstelt. As a member of the County of Brant, I thank you for that amendment. Any discussion about the amendment? Okay, then we'll vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? Carried unanimously. Okay, is there any discussion about the item 4.1? Mayor Davis, as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a question for staff. And when we have these meetings, they're directors meetings for a corporation. So we have this connection now between the Municipal Act and the Corporations Act. And in fact, this resolution sets some of the ground rules for our annual AGM in May. And so my question to staff is, have you reviewed this with legal? Are we going to be doing everything we need to do at the AGM to incorporate the changes that arise out of the new agreement with the County of Brant, in particular, the different composition of the board of directors and some of the other requirements that we've got to fulfill in order to comply with the agreement?
So through the chair, Marlene Miranda, General Manager, Community Services and Social Development. So staff have reviewed with legal the bylaws and the cost sharing agreement from November of 2021. And bylaw 258 was approved at the city level. That addresses the composition of the Social Services Committee and the Local Housing Authority to address the composition and the services that are within the cost sharing. Staff are currently also reviewing reviewing bylaw 1 and 2, bylaw 1, sorry, of the corporation to ensure that all of the components are met, and anything that needs to be addressed will be addressed with the AGM moving forward. You will note that in the resolutions that we have reviewed the composition and that we've captured the ability to have the vice chair as a county member and with Councillor Laferriere currently. We've also addressed to ensure that the signing authority is within the bylaws. So you'll note that the signing officers are the president and the treasurer. So we have reviewed them all and we'll continue to do a thorough review of the corporation bylaws to ensure that everything is captured.
Right, and that's important, Mr. Chair, because a corporation is governed by its bylaws, and just because we pass a bylaw here at City Council, that does not automatically change the bylaws of the corporation. And you change the bylaws of the corporation at the annual meeting. So glad to hear that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion on this item? Okay. Well, I'll just say thanks for making the joint agreement as fulsome as possible and long lasting. Appreciate it. I will now call the vote for 4.1 as amended. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Okay, now we'll move on to 5.2. Councillor Vanderstel, you separated this item. Would you like to go first?
Thank you, Chair Ferrier. Yeah, 1.8, the sale of the Woodlawn Meadows portfolio in total, I think there were 10 units. Do we have an approximate value for what those properties were sold for from 2017, 18, 19, and the last one in May of 21? Do we have a total for what we received for those properties? And if we don't, I don't have to have it today, but I would like to see it.
Yeah. So through the chair, I believe finance is on. I'm not sure they can answer that question at the moment, but we would have that cost and we'd be happy to circulate it.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Well, we'll call the vote. Oh, Councillor Antosky, was that just?
Sorry, I was just saying that Mr. Chair, Kelly from Finance had popped on there. I didn't know if she had.
Oh, I didn't see that. Thank you. Kelly, are you able to answer Councillor Vanderstel's question now?
Kelly Schmidt, Manager of Financial Analysis, and through the chair, we will get that information and get back to you with a memo.
Thank you very much, Kelly.
Thank you. Okay, so if there's no further discussion, I'll call the vote on item 5.2. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. There are no resolutions today, no notices of motion. Let today's meeting be testimony if anybody ever says government's inefficient. The meeting is adjourned. We will be meeting again for social services in May, as well as for the AGM for this corporation. We'll now proceed to the Brantford Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation Board of Directors meeting. I'm be turning the chair over to Mayor Davis, and the County of Brant members are excused. Thanks all, and thank you, staff.
Great work, Chair Laferriere.
Thank you very much, Councillor Laferriere. So we'll now move into the Board of Directors meeting for the Brantford Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation. And I believe, Lisa, the roll call has been taken.
The roll has been taken.
Good. All right. Does anybody have a declaration of conflict of interest regarding the agenda items for today? Just physically raise your hand. Not seeing any raised hands. So we have no presentations or delegations. Can I get a mover and seconder to place all the items for consideration consent on the floor? And they're essentially 3 items. So moved by Councillor Vanderstel, seconded by Councillor Antosky. Does anybody want any of these 3 items separated for discussion purposes? Seeing no raised hands, we'll proceed immediately to the vote on those 3 items. But before we do that, Lisa, if you would please state the title of each of the 3 items that we're voting on.
Item 4.1, approval of the Brantford Municipal Nonprofit Financial Statements for the year end December 31st, 2021, and approval and notification of the annual general meeting for May 4th, 2022. Item 5.1, the minutes from December 8th, 2021. Item 5.2, fourth quarter report of the operational management, Brantford Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation.
All right. So if you could please take the vote. So all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So no resolutions, there are no notices of motion, and therefore this meeting of the Brantford Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation Board of Directors is hereby adjourned until next month.
Good job, Mayor.
Have a good day, everyone.